Okay, it's January 2nd, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order. Those here are 3 commissioners, the chief, the 2 deputies, and it looks like most of our building committee's here. Okay, we'll start right off with new business.
So, as you recall, you asked me to look into doing this, having a survey conducted of the fire district and to find out what the residents or citizens or whatever you want to call it feel about fire station situation. And so I asked the UNH Survey Center to send us some options, which I've sent out to you for you to review. And we have with us today Mr. Zachary Azam from the UNH Survey Center, who can answer any of your questions. I don't know if you had a chance to review the material that I sent out to you earlier. And if you have any particular questions or what you think might be best for us, or maybe Mr. Azam could answer those if you have any of those.
Are we pronouncing that correctly?
It's a Zem.
That's
okay.
I apologize.
That's the best mispronunciation, so it's okay.
I guess I had read this over earlier, and you had asked for, the survey center had asked for what we had for questions already developed. And then the chief responded back. Is it typical for the organization to have come up with a whole series of questions? Can you explain to us how this typically goes?
Sure. So first, not necessarily. Sometimes there will be sort of questions that a committee has already kind of thought of, but a lot of the questionnaire design process that we would do with you is to kind of work through that. We kind of look at ourselves as the survey experts, where we will need some sort of feedback in terms of the things you're interested in knowing. I look at a survey as an opportunity to give you the information you need in order to make the decisions you need to make. So there would be a bit of a collaborative process in terms of finding out from you the things that you're looking to, ask people about, and us formulating the appropriate survey questions based upon that.
Thank you.
Now, when you get all the information, do you get the information from, where do you get your information?
In terms of addresses and stuff like that?
Yeah, to find out.
Yeah, so there's 2 different options. So in one of them where we can just use what's called every door direct mail from the United States Postal Service, where you essentially just tell them to provide a survey to every household and potentially every business address. And that way you don't actually have, this person at this address. It would simply say, to a residential customer, and so you can do it that way. I think that's probably the most inexpensive way of going about it, but we also have sample companies we work with that have this information, so we could get, actual household addresses if that's necessary.
Is there, I noticed there's different options available to us on this. Are we going to ask, send a mailer to every single address in the town, or simply send it just to registered voters, or just likely voters? What's the success rate or return rate for each of these options?
Yeah, so I would say that the most common one that we would use for a town survey would be to send to every household. You can, if you would like to, send to every registered voter, and sometimes people would prefer to do that just because it's an issue that all registered voters could potentially vote on. But we tend to find that you get coverage by hitting every household, and then let's say that there are more than one person in a household who would like to do a survey. We have ways to get that to them. We have our contact information. So that is the most common way, but we did provide multiple options. It's kind of up to you to decide on who you would like to survey.
Paul, good question.
Nate,
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so I was just curious, like, the results come in, how do you deal with, I guess, fraud, survey abuse, that kind of stuff, especially if you're not sending like an individual code to, each resident, if there are 6 people who live in one apartment, for example.
Yeah, and so so with the one that would be packets sent to each household, that is kind of how that's prevented, where you would only be sending out a second packet to a household if it was requested, and frankly, it's a very small amount of surveys in that case. But there is the other option, which is a mail push to web, where it would be a letter and there would be a code in order to do the survey. So both of those ways, yeah, we certainly don't want people being able to, take the survey multiple times, so we have ways to prevent that.
Okay, so if we sent out like physical surveys to be returned, the Johnson house might get 1 copy,
Yes.
but maybe there's, 3 people over the age of 18, and then they could go to like town hall and get additional copies or
Exactly.
something. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Zach, on the push to web responses, what percentage of responses are you getting in that type of reply?
So we found that it's pretty comparable to the traditional mail surveys. Granted, it's a new thing that we've done in the past few years, but I say that, an average response rate would be about 15%, but it can be higher or lower. It depends upon, how interested people are in the topic, how sort of engaged they are. The other thing I would certainly want to think about when we do a survey like this is some sort of, announcement or pre-notification, so people will expect that, they will be receiving a survey in the mail. So that's something, there's a lot of different ways to do that. We even had a town one time put out kind of like the little political signs, but just saying that the town hall survey, it was the Rye Town Hall, the town hall survey was coming, so there's all sorts of things you can do. But I think that does help boost response rate if people know that it's coming.
So you get 15% return?
Yeah, that's on average, yeah.
So that's 85% that don't return.
Well, survey response rates in general, they're typically around there at this time. Back in the 70s, 80s, you'd get 50% response rates, but that's kind of the best you can do these days in terms of people actually filling out surveys.
And so you have a sentiment of about 15% of the population towards a thing, and the survey comes back saying X.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to like a town meeting vote or something like that. Does X usually happen, or is it sometimes Y or Z?
I mean, there's certainly no guarantees, I would say. But I will say that, 15% response rate, it's still going to give you a pretty good sense of response in the town. Typically what will happen is you certainly will get the more engaged people that will do a survey, just in general. But it tends to kind of work out that even though, a lot of people aren't doing it, they tend to be ones who are more neutral on certain issues and aren't as interested in these sorts of issues. So I tend to stand by, even at the response rates we typically get, them being pretty representative of the populations we survey.
So if we were to send the survey to all residents of Tilton and Northfield and get that, expected 15% return, we're looking at, I guess, how many responses there? Like 1 to 200?
Well, so for example, there's 4,120 households in the 2 towns and PO boxes, so that would be somewhere around 650 responses. Okay. So yeah, I'd say it would be pretty decent, and that's also good in terms of they might not be the most important thing on a survey like this, but You also can do some bit of demographic analysis as well and see if there's differences in how people feel based upon, how old they are, any sort of demographic questions we ask as well. So that would be part of a report that we would provide.
Paul,
Go ahead.
would the demographics answer the question of whether they're a registered voter or not? And I'd be concerned that, would you get back a bunch of responses from people who aren't registered voters?
I mean, it's something that we could certainly ask, but if we're sending it to households, that's the only way you could do it is by self-reporting, whether they are voters or not. Though, again, I think that typically, based upon survey responses you receive, they would probably tend to be registered voters because, again, it's, more often people that are more engaged with these issues.
Go ahead.
What are the results for our district meeting? We're lucky we can get 1% to attend the meeting.
Yep.
How are you gonna get that to 15% to respond to a survey?
I certainly think that even if these aren't typically people that are going to, those meetings, any sort of town survey, you're generally going to get that level of interest. So that's not something I'm particularly worried about. One thing that might be also worth asking as a demographic question is whether you have attended those meetings in the past, because that could also be something to look at based upon, people feel differently based upon whether they are active going to those meetings or not.
So, depending upon the questions we ask, we can figure out a bunch of different information and maybe narrow down some of the decisions we could make from that.
Yeah, I certainly think that that's an important thing when you have demographic questions to surveys, because it's not just the overall response to a given question. You can break it down by different subgroups, and sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's not.
So is most of what we would be paying for the distribution of the survey, and then I guess like analytics of the results, or would that be additional?
Oh no, that's all included. So, and we do try to keep costs as down as possible. One thing that does help is that UNH has its own internal printing and mailing services, so we're not going out to a company to have to hire them to do that. So that helps, and it's just that and some professional time both in developing the survey and then doing the analysis and providing you with the results.
So we actually come up with questions, and you guys do the rest after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we take care of all the steps in the survey process from start to finish.
So, we developed the information that we developed the information we want to know.
To all departments. It's with Deep Regret, Deputy Chief.
And do we give you the exact wording of the question, or do you look at it and say, that question, the way you're asking it is slanted one way or the other, and you want to try and make it a neutral question and not biased?
Yeah, so part of that process would be not, it wouldn't be on you to really develop the exact wording of the questions. It would be just sort of to give us kind of the things you're looking for, and then we would give you questions that we think are fair. And obviously that can be a bit collaborative as well, but we have a lot of experience doing this, so we kind of just take like that sort of basic information that you need answers to, and then we develop survey questions.
And would we get to review the question? I mean, the questions after before it gets sent out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and I would also say, in terms of different parts of the process, I would say questionnaire design is the longest, and that's a good thing because you really want to make sure that you've kind of thought everything out. You've addressed everything you want to address, and we certainly can have a sort of discussion about those questions, which leads to finalizing stuff with them. So.
Have you done this for other towns, looking at fire departments specifically?
I would have to look back if we have for fire department specifically. In the time I've been there, the past 10 years, I don't remember one, but there might have been one beforehand. The closest one I could think of that I was personally involved with was the Rye Town Hall survey.
So as far as formation of survey questions, we're essentially providing you like copy initially, and then you guys are reviewing it and updating them to make sure that they don't mess up how surveys work, and then we review and iterate and keep going, oh, we want this changed until we address all of our informational concerns and have functional language for a survey.
Exactly, yeah, and that's a word I should have mentioned. It is an iterative process where, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you go through, you know, 6, 7, 8 versions of the questionnaire until you're done. And again, that's okay because you want to really have thought about this, you know, as much as possible and covered everything before you print it out and send it out.
I don't think that we have ever done a survey. I can't ever remember the fire department doing a survey.
I thought once when we were, they wanted to build a fire station up where public service was.
Business Park Drive.
Yeah, I thought they had somebody come in and did a survey, because he came in there and talked. And then, I don't know if he filled out something after, or, I do remember it.
Or was it for a police station?
Well, it was a police station and a fire station together.
Oh, that would have been at, where Walgreens is.
And I can remember the school department doing surveys. I don't remember Tilton doing surveys. I don't know if Northfield.
Did a medical survey. With the EMS building.
Yeah, so
That was a different survey.
that was a different type
Yeah.
of survey, yeah. That was a customer satisfaction survey, so that
That's
we
right.
ran for a year, well, up to a certain number, and then we got the results from that.
That was the customers built.
Yes, everyone who got a ride in the ambulance got a survey.
Whether they were taxpayer or
Didn't matter.
out of town. Okay.
Yep.
One thing that I could do if it's helpful.
Yes. Excuse me?
I was just going to say, one thing I could do as well, if it's helpful, is I can send over a couple examples of, you know, again, maybe not fire department specific, but town surveys that we've conducted in the past that are relevant, just to see what they look like. So I can send those over to you if you'd
That'd be
like.
great.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Ever any follow-up on success? Survey versus what was proposed, what was accepted, what wasn't accepted, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I don't have one off the top of my head right now, but yeah, I could certainly go back to and look into that for you. And
Well, I mean, I just think of something like
Yeah.
the town of Rye, and, you know, what do you think the building should be, and, you know, where do you think it should be, and what was the end result?
Unfortunately, with them, they're still having a tough time.
Oh, okay.
But the survey indicated that that would be the case.
Yeah.
So you can't win them all.
Okay, bad example.
You're right, but ultimately, again, I mean, I think the most helpful a survey can be is to provide you with as much information as possible that will help you make decisions in this process. So that's what we will aim to do. So I think it would be a good resource.
Got one more question.
Go ahead.
Sure. Do these rates reflect the increase in postage that's coming this month?
Yes. Yep, it's changed quite a few times, I feel like, in the past year, so we try to keep that updated.
I just know it's going up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll double check again though, just to make sure we got it, but yeah, we've had to change it a few times.
Is your response rate typically 15% for all the different types of survey, be it mail back or push to web, or
Yeah,
so it's
yeah, it's
so there's no one type of survey that gets a better response than the other?
no,
Okay.
yeah. Yes.
For the push to web, I'm just, there's people who wouldn't want to do that, and is there an option for a paper form
Yes.
somehow? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, what we would do is have probably my contact information, and then if you wanted a paper survey, I could send it.
Real quick question is,
Yeah.
what format do you guys mail those out, you know, because if it's, I just wonder, does it look generic, does it look, will it strike people's eyes and say, oh, this is from my fire department, or is it, you know, because I get a lot of mail, especially now,
Yes.
you know, and it's like garbage, 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 you know, you're like,
Absolutely, and I think that you know, we can figure out the best sort of branding, whether it would be the push to web, where it'd be an envelope, and then you know, send a letter like this. I can give a couple examples, although the self mailer is a little bit more interesting because we're trying to save cost by not having a envelope. So basically, and this I just printed off the printer, so it would have looked a lot bolder in reality, but you know, you have Rye Town Hall survey, address, you have an 11 by 17, so you have 3 sides, and then you can send it back, and it's postage paid by us. So it's kind of a cool way of getting a pretty significant survey and only, you know, not having to worry about an envelope.
And I think Dennis's point is well taken. I delete a lot of things out of my email.
I mean, I would
Yeah,
open that,
I would
the way
open
that
it
format, I would
because
open
it's
it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Or
that
those
doesn't
on
look
the
like
back,
junk
yeah.
mail.
Right. So so that would be part of that development, is we would kind of figure out what might be most eye catching for someone.
Right.
Color.
Yep, that too. Yeah.
What is the cost?
Depends on what option. I think the cheapest was around 11,000.
$11,000?
And almost half of it is, actually probably, yeah, about half of it is the mail costs. So, you know.
What do I get for my $11,000?
Answers.
The bulk is all posted. Do you have one?
What's my next choice after 11?
It goes up.
Well,
There's one for 6,500, which is sending it to likely voters only.
Yeah. And
Which
I can,
doesn't,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, that would be one that, you know, it's an option. I think that the drawback of that, we would have to determine, you know, who would fit a sort of likely voter to one of these meetings, and then, you know, then those who we weren't selecting for that wouldn't get a survey. So I tend to lean towards wanting to do either all households or all registered voters. And between the two, I'd probably recommend households, honestly, because it's what we typically do, and we have, you know, it seems to be pretty successful.
And you may have said it earlier, and if I missed it, I apologize, but if you send one to the household, and there are 3 registered voters in that household, how do they respond?
So if more than one person wants to do it, they could contact me, and I could send them an additional survey. And it's, you know, typically you honestly don't see a lot of it.
Okay.
And the other thing that was mentioned was maybe having some at town hall. And again, those are going to be a very small percentage of the surveys you get. I would say between those two things, maybe 10, if maybe less than that. So most of these surveys we get back would be the ones that we mailed out originally.
Do you have a limit on how many you'll send to a household?
I mean, I haven't really had that problem, but I certainly wouldn't, you know, just have
Remember, someone
someone
says,
say,
"I
"Oh
need
no,
100
we need
more."
10 surveys." Yeah, exactly.
You know, I want this to go my way, so.
Yeah.
More, you know?
I would shut that down. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any experience with the survey going out and me as a resident receiving it, as it now provides a little information about, oh, there's something going on that I didn't know about, and does that lead to more engagement? more people showing up at the meeting, more people looking for more information. And does the survey have anywhere on it where it directs people to go for more information or invites them to go for more information?
It's certainly something we could include. We could have sort of towards the end of a survey, if there's a particular place where you have additional information, if they're interested, we could certainly add that at the end. Another thing we typically do is we'll have a additional comments box at the end. So if people did have specific thoughts that we didn't cover in the survey, they can respond there.
Every single address gets a survey. So at 12 Joe Street, there's 115 units. 115 of them people get this survey.
Yep, and be each address.
That's what we want.
Waste of paper. Of those 112 people, 97 of them don't give a rat's ass. They're not gonna go anywhere anyway.
But they all
How
could
do you know?
potentially be registered voters.
Maybe that's where the entire 1% that shows up to the fire district meeting lives. They're all in the same house.
Or it'll be something.
We got Northfield Commons down there, I mean, I think that's like one or maybe two addresses where you've got all those apartments. I mean, everybody in each apartment.
There's 96 there.
Has an address.
Right.
Right.
I just don't understand, I mean, it's not like, they don't all know each other, so it's not like they're all gonna get together
Rather
and
than say, let's fill this out.
Yeah.
Well, you got what?
Party in my
Scribner Road or whatever. that is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Survey is coming.
By mail, by mail.
Anyway,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, ultimately, coverage is what's important. So understanding that, we're going to get something like a 15% response rate, sure, yes, that means that 85% didn't do it, but it's the fact that everyone got an opportunity to participate, I think is an important thing, because that way you're not running into coverage error, because there's no sort of error in terms of people not being selected for a survey. So that's why you would do that. That's why I'd send it to all addresses.
Question.
Yeah.
On, I see the mail processing, it's like 50% of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Is it so high because we're mailing something out and then you're paying for them to mail, for it to be mailed back, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, although the
So it's a
outgoing
double.
postage is still the most, because
Most, and
then
then
it's only that 15%
that
with,
comes back.
yeah, exactly.
Is there a way to have response by internet? Like, people will fill out surveys on the web. Would that reduce costs? I guess that's my question.
So you can do I think there would still need to be a mail component, because otherwise there's no real way to give everyone a opportunity to do the survey.
Other than on the town's, on the website.
Not everybody looks at that. Okay, go to the
You have
town
to
website. How do we
announce it.
notify everybody to go to the fire department
For a
website
survey.
to click on the survey link? And how do we, some people's gonna click on the survey link once, like most people probably will. Someone else might click on it 20 times and take it 20 times.
Yeah, they have things that stop that.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, we could use, like, the town, I know Tilton has at least one, like, communication notification system. I think Northfield does as well. So, like, we could use that to say, hey, there's a survey that the towns are doing. I've gotten some not quite emergency automated stuff from the town of Tilton in the past, as
Yeah,
far as
the reverse 911 stuff, the notifications, road closures and stuff like that.
I ripped up on them one night for that, they called it like midnight for a road closure.
Yeah, but there's still people that
Yeah,
don't have that.
right.
You have to sign up for it. You don't get it
Everybody has an
automatically.
address,
Very good.
We hope.
except the guy under the bridge.
Well, it's like you said, he's brief, just 4,122 in our zip code, households.
Anybody else have anything?
Thank you, Zachary.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll have to get back to you. and let you
Sure.
know.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, like I said, I'll send you a couple examples of surveys we've done
All right.
before. Maybe that'll help.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Very helpful.
You don't have to leave.
I appreciate it.
Probably driving back to Durham. Let's do it.
Yeah. My parents live in Laconia, so I'll swing by there. All right. Good to talk to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Building committee.
Well, we have the building committee here. And I think it's a direct response to a meeting I didn't go to. No, I said that wrong. I apologize. The decision to come to the meeting was at a meeting I didn't attend, so I'm not sure that I can speak intelligently about where we're at. So I would
I'll be
ask
happy
Paul
to. I'll speak. I don't know if it'll be intelligent or not.
It'll be more intelligent than mine.
I guess what we're experiencing right now is dizziness. It's like we're not getting clear direction from the commissioners when you compare what our original mandate was to several changes in that. And what I think is important for us is to have a target that we can aim for and stay focused on. So I think the general comment of or thoughts of the building committee is we need direction. We need to know exactly what you guys are looking for.
And I think Paul, personally, we need to focus on, you're right, direction, and one direction only. Because what's happening is, every time we focus on something, somebody comes up with something different. And it happens time and time again. How many times has it happened already? At least 3 or 4. And it's gotta stop. I mean,
Well-
we can't just keep going on, because we're not gonna get anywhere.
It's endless.
Yeah.
It'll be endless.
I mean, I can come up with an idea right now. Why don't we add on down there and keep this station?
Well,
I mean, you can come up with ideas all the time like that there.
so I guess what I'd like to address then is our original mandate and get direction from you guys as to whether that mandate is still valid or whether there's been some fluctuation in that mandate. Do you have that? I'm sorry.
I don't
You
have it.
don't
I didn't
have
bring
it
my
with you?
big notebook
You didn't?
today, but basically I can summarize it.
If you would, please.
It was basically, the direction was the results of the 2019 committee, which said a single station at Park Street. And we were running in that direction. Our RFQ went to the contractor asking for a proposal for a single station at Park Street. We actually still have a signed contract for them to design that. But then at midstream, the Sanborn Road property became available,
But
you know,
Did-
and we
didn't-
changed direction.
Right, and
We-
then
we-
Center Street popped up.
Correct.
And we changed direction.
And we changed direction, so,
I default to Lisa when it comes to all the engineering and all the technical stuff going on. And one of the comments that struck me in our last meeting was that the commissioners were asking for a shovel-ready project. And is there anything you want to say about what a shovel-ready project is?
well, the previous directive said that, but we don't ask for a shovel-ready project, because you can't deliver it in this form of a government contract, so to speak. I mean, you would have to, a shovel-ready project means you're going to the bidders, or going to the voters with a fully designed project. And you're paying for that full design, and then you're gonna have a shovel-ready project. But the choice was made to do design-build. Design-build is not a shovel-ready project, I guess. I don't want, let's not confuse terms. We already have a directive of design-build. We've already changed from design, bid, build at one point, or construction management. I think let's just stay with design-build instead of what we would consider a shovel-ready project. Shovel-ready means it's designed and ready to go.
You got something to say?
Yes. So I wasn't here for a lot of the history as to previous fire station building committees. Although this does go into the 1990s, is my understanding, but really it's been the last 15 years or so, 2010 through now, that there's been a real effort to try and build a station. But I think we've been putting the cart before the horse in a sense, because we haven't buried the hatchet on the question of what town does the station get built in, which is why it keeps bouncing back and forth. And I know there have been several projects proposed, none of them have been passed, but I think that we need to maintain the status quo of having a station in each town, whether it's a primary station and a call station, or a primary station, a substation. But I don't think the voters would approve the district going to only having a station or facility in a single town, given the fact that the district is two towns divided in the middle by a river. And then as for locations, I know what we've been looking at has changed a lot in the past year. And I think, frankly, the idea of building a station at either location where we actively operate out of is absurd, because you're adding the additional cost and complexity of where do we put a temporary station while we build the new station where there was a station we were using. So I think ultimately Park Street and Center Street can't be locations for a new station at this time, given the fact that we need to use them until we have new space.
Well, I think, if I could comment on that, I think what each of the previous building committees has done has been trying to forecast, number one, put together a good proposal, a valid proposal for the entire district. And while in the back of our mind, trying to guess what the voters would approve. And I think what we need to know is what is the tolerance of the district voters for a new fire station, for a split package, or whatever. We need to find out what direction we need to go in that's going to bring a positive result, or else there'll be another committee in 5 years doing the exact same thing we're doing.
So does the survey help us do that?
I think it does.
Agreed.
I think it'll be the best 10 grand that we spend.
Well, just agreed. We brought several proposals over the years, and all we know was no was the answer.
Exactly,
Well, what's the answer?
right. How do
Well,
we
we'll
get
do
to-
it another 5 years and we got another no. And what's the answer? What do you people want?
Right.
How is the survey gonna answer that?
I don't know. How are the 1% that only show up gonna answer
Can
that?
I respond to that? I'm sorry, Nate, can I respond to that
Sure.
question? I think the survey helps us move in the direction of what the respondents say, not us trying to accommodate the 57 people who show up at the meeting. Because we can sit there at the meeting with the 57 people who show up and review the results of the survey, which hopefully will show that the bigger majority may feel slightly different than the majority at the meeting.
And it gives you a direction.
People that take the survey, because of the time passage between survey, design, district meeting have all changed.
How do you propose that we get the pulse of the district voter?
I don't think it's, I don't know what it is, but I don't believe it's by spending $11,000 on a survey that returns 15%.
So do
Well,
we
I
spend
can-
another 50 or 60,000 for another design that everybody says no and nobody knows why?
Although,
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, we've been spending $100.
10 grand sounds pretty cheap to me.
Yeah, you need to pick a
Paul, you
direction
got
and
Nate
go.
back there.
So as far as, you know, what do we ask them, getting the pulse? You know, we could have questions such as, you know, would you support the building of a new fire station in, you know, cost range A, cost range B, cost range C? Would you, you know, support the building of a new station in Tilton? Would you support the building of a new station in Northfield, or, you know, some kind of, you know, out of these locations, rank which one you would prefer? Because there are going to be people who are not going to vote for a station wherever we put it because it costs more than whatever amount of money. And then there are going to be people who are only going to vote for a station in certain towns. And so, you know, that'll give us a more of a feel for, you know, what those constraints
and
are.
that's where I think we got sidetracked, when we started meeting about a single station over in Northfield. And the understanding that the voters primarily, I think, in my opinion, the number one reason why they were voting these stations down was the cost was too high. Now, that's my opinion, but I think a lot of the nay votes were the total cost was too high. So when we started going down the path over there in Northfield, again, this is my opinion, I think it became clear that the cost was, we weren't going to be able to save a lot of money by building in Northfield. It wasn't like it was going to be half as expensive, or it's going to cost, you know, $1 million instead of 5 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. And once that became clear to me that we're going to have the same, no, it shouldn't cost $7 million to build a station over here. I think you would still get now those same naysayers who would say that's too much money, but now you've got a whole bunch of people who are not with you because you're moving farther away from some of the calls and the Tilton voters, and the list goes on and on and on. So we certainly could have railroaded through that whole, come to a district meeting with the station over there, spent the $100,000 and get it voted down again. And we could have already done that and moved on, and next year the district could come up with a new committee. So I think what we were trying to avoid was that scenario. But part of that is we have to educate the district voters that you can't build a starter home for $500,000 anymore. You can't build a fire station for $500,000. And that's why, you know, I think a lot of this, when we talked about educating the townspeople, was going to be critically important. Because you get townspeople who don't even know we have a full-time fire department, let alone how much it costs to run a full-time fire department, how much a fire truck costs.
That's, in my opinion, you know, I'll just throw my 2 cents out there real quick. You know, I think I voiced that the other meetings. I'm not a big fan of surveys as I've taken surveys, but I'm a little more positively thinking today, because I mean, if so long as we get to develop a thoughtful survey It's, you know, we have the say so. I mean, I was under the impression they would just develop something, and I have zero confidence in that. But if we can, because of the survey, to answer your question, Kevin, one, you can get a survey and push the education out there. But this survey, you know, we gotta be really thoughtful with this survey. But like Tim was saying, you know, you can use it as an opportunity to educate by, you know, throw some questions in there, you know, they may seem silly, but do you realize we have a full-time fire, you know, explain a full-time force, kind of like lead some of the questions that way. And the other thing is, with surveys opposed to meetings, okay, so if we mail this out to 4,100 homes, we're hitting way more people than ever show up, like we said. Two, you also have people that are gonna answer these. If they do take the time to answer it, they're gonna answer it thoughtfully in their household, okay? When you get into meetings, there's a lot of people that show up at these meetings, and sometimes we'll go with the flow, because there's a lot of meeting anxiety. It's a whole psychological thing, but there's some people that'll, well, I wanna go to this side, so, you know, I can avoid getting my car dented, you know, or keyed or whatever. I mean, people think that way, not that that's what happens. But, you know, there's a lot of pressure at a meeting. And that's another benefit to this survey, Hey, I get it in my home. People do things a lot differently in private than they do publicly.
Well, I think, you know, the big question that needs to be answered, that if you build it in Tilton, it's no. If you build it in Northfield, it's no. I think if you can narrow that down and find out what is the thought process. Does everybody have to have their own fire station? Okay,
that's what I'm
the
saying.
survey
But
would
educate,
hopefully,
but have some questions prior to that,
Absolutely.
so that it's like, so it keys people into a thought process, not just Tilton, no, Northfield, no,
Right.
or cost, no, cost, yes.
3 pages worth.
To get out of that, I mean, if they start looking at things, like I say, you wanna put it, what's important to you? Ask people, what's important to you? Response times, is response times important to you? Explain a response, maybe a quick blurb, is it, you know, and go from there, things of that nature.
Yeah, no, so I definitely agree with Dennis on, you know, using the survey for education, because we could have a small section that is just, you know, okay, here's, you know, past proposal, you know, from whatever year, this was the cost per square foot, and, you know, it would just be a small table of like, hey, every year it's going up the square footage to, you know, so like this proposal will likely not be cheaper than, you know, past proposals, like, 'cause, you know, people might have a different opinion if like they see the math under the hood versus just being told it's whatever amount of money. And then as far as like getting participation, once we do have a survey that has been created, we could potentially, you know, have volunteers going to town events and asking people to, you know, take them in person. You know, we could potentially, you know, turn it into a, you know, Google form and, you know, allow people to do it online through the, you know, town websites, and we would just require, you know, name and address information, and so after the fact it could be, you know, checked against registered voters, you know, to get rid of, you know, fraud. You know, I think to a degree it would be possible for us to collect this information in a survey in-house, and, you know, we could do it cheaper. I just don't think it would be as scientific or effective or distributed appropriately. But if we feel like we don't get enough participation from, you know, the mailers, we could continue to try and get engagement with that survey in other ways after the fact.
All right, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I think Lisa has wanted to get.
Let's not turn around. We have been moving in a direction that is positive. The Sanborn Road site, we all agreed was a good site for a second station, correct? I mean, I think we all, well,
Yeah, most of
maybe
us
not.
agreed, right?
Most of us. I think we could develop a survey that says, would you support first of all, we don't own Sanborn Road, and that was an issue that we've all expressed, I've expressed concern. They have to go to the voters to be able to purchase this property, correct? or to be able to,
Yes,
to-
well, they don't have to, but they likely will.
so we were saying, stop, don't design a station for a project that on land we don't own. But we do have numbers now, correct? So we could develop a survey, and don't leave it open to all alternatives. Would you like a station at Sanborn Road, keeping Park Street as is, or maybe with some improvements? Or would you like a total station over at Park Street? I guess we have to leave Center Street out because there's really no options there. Is that what you've kind of decided? So you ask the voters, would you support this cost at this place, this cost at that place, or this cost at both places? Boom.
The other thing you're gonna ask, there again, when you start making two stations, you're adding a lot more personnel, number
Yes.
one. And it was brought up by the men that they all should be together, all the equipment should be together.
Right.
And that was one of the big things that was brought up.
Right,
One
and they don't
station and
all
one
fit,
station
they
only.
don't fit at Sanborn Road, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
one station and one station only.
But they may fit at, well, it's limited
Well,
at
it's
Park Street.
the
So ma-
design, however you design it, you can make them all fit in one. That's possible.
So maybe the first survey is actually with the fire.
And the biggest
Wait,
thing,
maybe the first survey is what?
Well, we want.
I missed the last
we
word.
keep I said with the firemen, because we don't
That's
want
been
to
done.
push something.
it's been done, they
spoke.
actually came and said that that's not a good spot because of the traffic.
Sanborn Road.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's forget
For a
it.
single spot,
For a single.
For a single
Well,
spot.
right. And that's what I'm
Single
saying
or
about
not,
convoluted
that
things.
doesn't
You can't
change the
convolute
traffic.
things.
Right. Okay.
What's that?
Single or not, it doesn't change the
And
traffic.
the other, one of the biggest thing that bothers me is
single down here,
this
because-
Tilton Northfield thing
Oh,
here.
yeah, well, you're
It's
right.
not a Tilton North, it's a district that two towns belong together. It's one fire station.
Right.
It should not be Tilton against Northfield.
I don't think it really is.
Well,
think we
I know,
said
but
10
people
to-
bring that up all the time. Well, we pay more taxes in Tilton, and that's wrong. That is wrong.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, well,
I'll tell you, it goes
So,
both
so
ways.
I would say, isn't the current design not a single station design? Because we have a primary station at Central Street, and then we have the call station at Park Street? Is this
not-
currently
it's
not
not-
a two-station
That's our
implementation?
current,
It's not a call
current
station.
They store
operational
their equipment
situation.
there.
Right.
That's our current situation.
But that comes down to a management thing. I'd like to just ask this, if you guys, so as the commissioners, if you guys are gonna decide whether or not we do a survey. So, that said, if you do the survey, what is your intent as the commissioners as far as development and input?
I can speak, but yeah, I don't know if you want to.
go ahead.
I'm leaning towards the survey, and my intent would be, I'm not I would look to them for their guidance. I'm not sure I would give them those two exact options. I would have them give them two options, but it would allow them to provide their input on which option they thought would be better. But before you offered them those two options, you need to ask a whole bunch of other questions
Right.
before you
And that's
even
what I'm
get
talking
to
about, as
that.
far as like the question development, I should say question development. So what is your plans to develop the questions? I mean, do the three of you gonna collaborate, just boom, and this is what we're sending out? Are you looking to develop some stuff, look for other input? Are people, is there gonna be a review to see if this is, because again, here's one of my fears with a lot of surveys is a lot of times it's like you don't have that answer, right? It's like, well, that's not the answer I would give. So A through D, what do you pick? Nothing, But a lot of times in surveys you're not given that, and sometimes that biases an outcome because of the way when we start applying the scientific method to it, and i.e. math and statistical math, the way it gets figured out, it's like, well, everybody, you could have 1,500 people who don't answer the question because there was,
They don't
I want E and
understand
E
it
was
or-
not available. And that's how it gets skewed,
Well, maybe I have a little I'm a little naive on this, but I would think that that's their role. They're gonna ask you what questions you want answered, and then they're gonna come up with the way to verbalize it,
Right.
so that you're not leaving the survey respondent to the answer you want.
Right,
That's
and
exactly what
again,
you're
that's,
doing now.
that's my fear with some of it.
I think collaboratively, the building committee and the commissioners and whoever else wanted to supply questions for the survey could do so. I think that would be better to have everybody's input onto what the survey, what information are we looking to get out of the survey, and we give, well, this is the information we're looking for. How do we put it in an order so that we get the information that we are looking for through these questions?
How do the people who are supposed to benefit from the survey allowed to ask the questions? Because you know what?
We're all benefiting
We're all
from it.
You want something,
That's,
what you're doing is you're building a map to where you want to go, and you're leading people there.
Then,
I
That's
think
an
we're leading,
accurate.
we want to provide what the fire department needs for their equipment and personnel.
So I
My
guess I
only
would look at
concern
it
is
more.
we don't have property.
Which of these type of issues are more important to the district?
So I guess the way that I would think about it would be the, building committee would brainstorm a bunch of potential questions that we could then send to the commissioners to review and, tailor the question set down, add their own questions, send it to the UNH people, have them review it, send, back a copy, and then, or we could, have meetings with all the building committee and, the commissioners, present to workshop it, but, I mean, I guess the question is like, where does it start from? Like, are you expecting us to come up with like the base questions, or are you guys gonna provide the building committee with like some kind of like high level, like these are things we want to know, and then we would break that into a set of questions to send back to you?
Well, I believe you guys were on the building committee, you guys should have some of the questions you want to ask. So I think you guys should be supply us with some anyhow.
And that's why I was asking, as far as going, what do you want to do?
So we cancel
I
the
mean, you've been on it
contract
for
with
a year
railroads.
and a half now. I
That's
mean,
what every-
you've run,
No,
you've run across things from the firefighters and
We won't-
everything.
By the time you do a survey and get all that, you're changing direction. You're not building a station for 3 more years, or getting to a voter for
At
2 or
least.
3 years. Right?
So-
Okay, but we're starting over. Right?
Which makes
We're starting over.
no sense whatsoever.
You basically are.
How many times are you
Because we
gonna,
keep changing, adding
Right,
things,
and
adding
we've
things.
already
we
spent
don't
money
things.
on
But it's like the
railroad.
point that I made before, until you poll your people, until you figure out what the committee, because again, every time, every iteration of a commission, a board of commissioners, or a facilities committee, every time has failed, because why? Because we're obviously not addressing what the bulk of the population wants. Even the small majority of the small population that actually shows at the district meetings. So obviously, it's not like we've been doing everything right, and it's like, gosh darn, we got screwed again by the voters. I mean, I think it's to our benefit to figure out, come out of our little shell in our world. We all have personal bias. We're autonomous creatures by nature. I mean, so we have bias. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's absolutely biased, but we have our personal biases. How that affects how we do business together, and how we. Because if I've said it, everybody here has probably said, well, the voters, really. I can tell you, I have not polled 4,100 homes personally. So anything that I have to say is anecdotal. I mean, yeah, we can talk about the response data. We can measure on a map how many miles and say, yep, we got this A, B, and C with all the data that we want. But until we figure out what the actual voting population prefers, I mean, we're stuck. Because we say, oh, we're starting over. Well, we're probably going to start over again, because if we go with a one-station thing and we go up there and say, yep, we're going to rebuild, we decided we're going to pick Northfield alone, we're going to tear down Center Street Station, we're going to spend $10 million building a brand new Taj Mahal down on Park Street. And then when it gets voted down, we're like, okay, guess what we're doing? Starting over.
Right,
So I
but
guess
we,
this
thought we were gonna build a station at Sanborn Road. That's where we were all headed.
Well, yeah, yeah, or
Which
that,
can
either way,
still be
yeah.
done. It's still, the firemen are staying together, they're just going from Center Street to Sanborn Road.
Which they don't want.
But that's not what they want.
But they too are
Is that-
variable
is that-
because it comes up to the
Or,
voters.
or we could, let the call firefighters stay at Park Street if we build a new station, and the career firefighters could be at, Sanborn
thought
Road.
that's
We
what
don't
we were
have
doing.
to split them up.
I thought
Yeah.
that's what we were doing.
They've split ends.
That's clearly, well, in my mind, that's clearly what we
Right.
were doing. Park Street was staying the same, and we were building a new station to replace Center Street up at Sanborn Road.
Yeah, but so I wouldn't call that a single station solution, because we will still have
Well, I
two
never-
stations.
Well,
It's
I
not
think
a
it's the
single,
word
it's
we're
not.
missing.
We changed direction from single to two stations, one at Sanborn Road and one at Park Street. And
Based
now
on-
what you're saying is start over.
So I think there's some confusion when, we talk about single station, as in the district has a single station for career and call, and single station as in we're gonna be building a single new station instead of, two new stations. Because we could build a single new station and still have career and call firefighters at the, two separate stations.
When we started out with our RFQ, it was one station at
It
Park
was a
Street.
single station.
A single station.
Right.
We changed direction. This committee said, wow, Sanborn Road's available, let's study it. We studied it, and I thought our decision was, yeah, that's a better site, we just don't own it. Let's.
And that's the
that-
recommendation we made to the commissioners.
Correct.
Yes.
So I think that we're not saying a single station at Sanborn Road, we're saying keep Park Street as is, Sanborn Road would be the headquarters and a station. But if that's not what the firefighters are saying, that their response time isn't okay, then I agree with that. We don't want to force the station over on Sanborn Road if your response time isn't good. Right? I mean, is that what we're saying? So I guess no matter what, we're starting over.
We came here looking for new direction,
Right.
a solid direction. We're not gonna get that, because you wanna do the survey, and you can't give us any direction until those survey results are compiled based on what people at that time will pass, even though it won't be put before them for 1, 2, or 3 years. If I can ask a question that's not related to the survey. The commissioners and the board has changed, I recognize that. The commissioners were more than willing to engage with the Tilton Selectmen on Sanborn Road, but flat out refused, I think, to engage with the Tilton Selectmen on straightening out this mess over here. I want to know why you.
Which mess are we, help me out, give it a little more info.
So, this committee said to,
Yep, I followed you right up until
The
you said the mess
commissioners-
over here.
hey, straighten this parking lot out with the town, and we can stay right there. I'll tell you what, that proposal of staying there will pass.
So you say, maybe
can-
what we should do is find out what the voters actually think. Because what you just, that last comment you just made is the thing that we've been fighting from day one, is that what we think as commissioners, as building committee, we think we're putting a proposal in front of the body that they will approve. They haven't. Either we're totally out of touch, or they are, one or the other. And they're the ones with all the votes. So I'm not gonna say I know what the voters are gonna approve. That's the last thing I know for a fact.
I didn't think any of the ones that didn't
I'd like
pass
to
would.
respond to a conversation we had as a committee, and correct me if I'm
Go ahead.
wrong. When we talked about the location over there and some of the options that may or may not be available, one of the comments that came up with is all the previous fire department building committees, every one of them said that is not a feasible location. And if you were to tear that building down and build a new one there, how are you saving money? Because now you're gonna have a 3-story building that holds not all your equipment. You won't have all your equipment in one place. And you're not helping the town out because you're not providing even enough parking for the fire department, let alone the town keeping what they have. If you asked, I guess I'm firmly in belief, because I've been on previous committees, if you were looking around town, you would say, yeah, that's a perfect location for a fire department, maybe, as far as the calls go. But it's a horrible location to actually build that because it's so small, because the committee's always said they wanted 2 acres or whatever the acreage requirement was, and that's obviously not big enough. So I think we talked about it and decided, why would you, it's not gonna save you a ton of money to build there, it's probably gonna cost you more.
Yeah, because you're looking at, okay, now you have to relocate all of the equipment and activities at Center Street somewhere else temporarily while it's demolished and the new station is built, and then you run into the issue with,
right, you go back
if the
to
town
the
selectmen
Paul's
do not
comment.
want something to be built there,
They have no choice.
they can ensure, because ultimately, even the planning board and the zoning commission are just delegated powers of the selectmen that they can
Which do not
override
apply
those
to the fire
bodies.
district. Planning and zoning is out the window.
Here's the bottom line. This committee needs direction from you guys. Whether the direction that you're willing to offer is the same mandate that we had a year and a half ago, or whether it's changed, we need direction. I don't care if it's a UNH cooperative extension survey, I don't care if it's a survey you guys put out, I don't care. We need direction from you, and we need direction from the community. That's the bottom line. All the rest of it is just fluff. If we don't get that from you, you're not gonna get a report from us.
I concur.
Where would this money come from? Is it in your budget?
What, for the survey?
Yeah.
I don't believe it is.
Where's it gonna come from?
That's a good question.
I don't think it's gonna
The
fly,
railroads
I don't think it's gonna fly to come out of
The
any of the
railroads.
money we've appropriated.
No, but did we talk about that? That there was some place we could take money from?
We put a line, there's a line item where we could take it from, but I don't know if there's only like $1.
I was trying to get some appropriated, March is coming.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, might as well ask
there
if
goes-
they'll approve that for a
Yeah.
study, for a survey, I guess. March isn't that far
Depends on
away.
how much the trial cost.
You know, we keep throwing money out the window.
Water
We do.
department.
All right, you know what, that's one thing we excel at,
Yeah, good at it.
pissing away money.
Good at it.
There's nobody better.
I think this kind of comes back to my point that we maybe have to solve or permanently state the station that is being built is going to be built in Tilton or Northfield, because then that ends all of the, oh, hey, we can do this thing over here now, we can do this thing over here now. What if Northfield has a piece of property that they acquire within, the next year that is, the perfect site, and then, we start looking at that for some reason. So I think the commissioners or, the town needs to vote at the district meeting potentially, like what town the next station should be built in. I think that needs to be settled finally before there's a
how do you
chance of
ask
something successful.
Yeah, how do you ask that? We don't own any property anywhere.
You're gonna have to provide a whole proposal as to why, and justification as to why you're asking the question.
because
You
we're
can't
one
just ask them a
district.
question.
But
The
that-
voters are gonna say, well, why would we do that? Are
I
you
think you want it
recommending
where
that?
you
Are
want
you-
it where the
I mean,
calls,
so the question could be, we've been attempting to build a station since 2010.
So you're
If
taking
the
a survey.
district is, yes, you're taking a
And you're
survey
taking a
via
survey
a
of
vote,
57
essentially.
people. I'd rather take a survey of 4,000 and have
If I may,
600 reply.
back to Paul's point, as far as direction, you guys seem like you're inclined to at least consider this survey more at this point. I'm not sure where we're gonna go as a facilities committee, but if it's gonna be a collaborative issue as far as development of this said survey, I mean, is that a direction you guys are looking at for us, at least for the next couple of foreseen meetings of ours? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, I won't speak for everybody, but
Our next meeting is the 18th, and my question right now is it even worth having a meeting?
No,
Thank you.
it's
We have no direction.
Monday.
I think if we decide that we're gonna do this, the survey, then we have a joint meeting, we come up with the questions.
We postponed, we changed
Building
next
committee.
Mondays to today,
right.
our last meeting.
Yeah, that's what we.
Oh, I still had it on my calendar.
Well, yeah, well, it's still on the site too, that's why I was, I
And then our next meeting is the 22nd.
I messaged Paul today, because I was like, no, didn't we change it to the second?
I think we looked at the minutes. I don't think the minutes reflected that the meeting was
Maybe Kathy
actually
did,
canceled on
Kathy
that.
knows that. I gotta.
The 22nd at 5:30. Well, I guess we're gonna decide tonight whether we have another meeting or not. Because I'm not gonna attend another meeting if we just sit here spinning our wheels doing the same thing we did 8-10 years ago for the same result.
Yeah, I don't feel like we've
So,
made any progress or really done anything meaningful since we had the vote that we presented to the commissioners.
I think we're just throwing money away. We come up with a new thing every time. I mean, it's like this survey here. We don't have to do this here, but it was brought up, so now it's, do we do it or not? My opinion, no. Let's move forward.
Move forward with what?
What they're proposed to do, one station only.
So one station at the Sanborn Road location, or
We were told that's not a good location.
By whom?
Firefighters.
Firefighters, okay.
They were here, they were here, two of them right here said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's just as much as like,
well, wasn't
okay,
that to
me
call
and Eric
firefighters?
thinks
No.
this, or me and Tim think that. I mean, you know, I'm not discounting the firefighters, but I mean, it's like, why don't
Who
we
would know
just?
better than them?
Huh?
Who would know better than them?
see, the problem we have is
Because
just
they
a
wanna be
rotational thing. Your board changes, employees change, the committee members change.
I agree.
All that change has got us where we are.
I mean, I would almost argue the firefighter opinion that we care about is future potential employees, not existing employees, because the existing employees find the
How
current
do we pull those
thing
people?
acceptable. They
How
find
do
the
we
current
pull
stuff
them?
acceptable.
Yeah.
I don't think you can
You can't
do
pull
based on
something
that.
because
I
of-
think we have a very good fire department, and I'd like to make sure that those people are happy.
Deputy Chief O'Baney,
However,
correct me if I'm
however
wrong.
it pans out.
But if we're gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The discussion that the firefighters were bringing forth, the primary reason was we were gonna increase response times for the majority of the calls.
Yeah, again, I don't want to
If they're-
speak, I can speak to what they spoke to, a little bit. I don't want to, you know, if you want their opinion, you should ask their opinion, but I think what you'll find is their number one concern is keeping the four members together. And their number two concern is having a good response time to the village district. So, again, I don't want to
Yeah.
speak to them, but I believe that's, you'll find their number one priority is keeping those four members together and acting as a unit wherever we go. And that because of what we do out in the community, they need to act as a unit, those four people. Their number two priority is the village district.
And they looked at all response times being from a single location on Park Street.
I'm not
I'm asking, because I mean, if we're gonna say all the response times will be increased from Salmon Road, we also know that response times are gonna be increased from Park Street. Because Park Street currently sits pretty much at the outer,
I don't think they all agreed on Park Street. I'm not saying Park Street. I'm saying the village.
Together.
right.
Well, I'm
Because I
saying
know a lot of our
the four-
data is generated from Center Street.
Yeah.
That's my point. So when you push a mile out either way, you know,
I 100% think that we should take we should take their opinions as part of this decision-making process. But certainly, I'm not gonna say that we're gonna gain our direction solely, 100% by the whims and will of the fire department members. I think they're an opinion that needs to be considered, as well as everything else that we've discussed. But to say that because the firemen want one station and one station only, and it's gonna be at Park Street, I think, yes, you've now given us a mandate, but you know what? It's not gonna pass it at the district meeting. We've already been down that road. I'm so frustrated right now because we're going nowhere.
Not to mention the fact it's the more expensive of the options we
Or
It
close
is
to it.
not.
According to
You're giving-
Lorero,
No, they didn't consider the asset that we own at Center Street. When you figure out that asset has value, it is not the lowest cost.
it is an irregular, non-conforming lot that if it were sold to someone that was not the district, is
It's an asset.
almost unusable.
It's an asset, I mean, to how, to what degree?
Right, I'm not going solely by
Yeah.
cost, but don't say it's the lowest
Right.
cost, it's not.
The argument's
If,
whether it's
if,
a
if, the,
300,000 or a
Tilton
million and a
Selectmen
half.
Correct,
would
correct.
accept swapping the station without us doing the demo and the pavement, then there's no additional cost.
We've never had it appraised. But anyway, that's a whole different
Yeah, that's a-
argument.
That's off subject.
If we can't build at Sanborn Road, it's irrelevant, right?
Why can't we build at Sanborn Road? The guy from
Response
Lorero said
time.
it was the
Response-
perfect location.
Response time.
I think it's the response time,
Response
and where all the majority of the calls on, and the chief even said that on this side of 93. More than, well, I think he said 75%. 75%.
with 66+% of that being north of the river. Not to mention the fact that there's been nothing to address Lockmere and East Tilton response times since the station they had went to Belmont and then closed. So
It was never,
That was never a viable station in the last 40 years.
Back to Paul's question, what do you guys want us to do?
I know what I'm gonna do.
I
Can I
keep
read
trying to
something?
come back to that, but
I mean,
The original or the change?
no, this is, so at our, I think it was at the budget committee meeting, you made that same statement to me. What is the direction? And I took that, and I don't know how, it's been a couple weeks, and I've done some research online, and I thought that this question might come up, so I was ready for it. And I called it the mission statement. The mission of the Fire Station Building Committee is to investigate the issues concerning the location, specification, design, cost, and funding for a new fire station for the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS District. I may have worded that wrong. It is expected that the committee will make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners in a time frame that will allow the Board of Commissioners to present the committee's recommendation to the voters on the 2025 town warrant. It is incumbent upon the committee to communicate its work to the citizens of the district. And then I have 4 kind of underlying statements or questions. Identifying the challenges facing the department currently. Propose multiple solutions to those problems with each defined financial impacts, because I think if we don't have those defined financial impacts, we can't just say, oh, they need to do that. Host educational public hearings to explain the findings and educate and inform the fire commissioners on the findings of the committee.
so where did you get that?
Huh?
Where did you get that?
Compilation of many different towns.
That mission statement is a compilation of different
Yeah, really,
statements?
different building committees that I saw and kind of.
Okay,
So,
so,
Net new.
yeah, so that's totally different than the one sentence mission statement that we got at the beginning
No, I
of
understand
this.
that, and
So-
it was something, that I knew that, I had a feeling that this was gonna come up because we're at a standstill.
Right,
but
exactly.
we can't give costs unless you have an engineer on board, which we do with the RIP. We can only cost what they've studied.
Right, but we know, they gave us an idea of what, like, some site work might be at each of the 2 current options. They've
Right.
given us and granted, they haven't considered the asset of that into the offset of that cost.
Right, but we don't, what you're saying is we could be investigating some property, you know, somewhere else, right?
Well,
Are we focusing on two sites? I guess that's the,
well, I mean, in a way, it seems that the Center Street seems to be an option, so maybe that's a third in a, you know, so you don't have a 50-50 tie. You know, if 200 people respond, 100 vote for Park Street, 100 vote for Sanborn Road, and, you know, it doesn't help us any. And I'm just trying to come up with something because,
I realize that. We're starting over. Every building committee has had the similar charges, and then it just changes. Like you said, some people do. I mean, we've never come this close to actually having something go to the voters, right? Well,
Oh,
we've
no,
gone to
we've
voters,
actually
we've gone to
had, yeah.
voters and it failed, so I guess
we've gone to the
maybe
voters on stuff, it just gets shot down.
it gets shut down. But
It gets voted. I think one lost by 1 vote or 2 votes or something. That was a life safety complex.
So do the commissioners want to finalize the wording of that statement and send it
I don't know
out
that
to the
Eric's
building committee?
proposing a new mission statement.
No, I just read it just to get feedback.
So I think the committee would benefit from having a new expanded mission statement officially.
We do not want an
No.
expanded mission
No.
statement. We
Which is
want a
complicated.
concise 1 or 2 sentences. This is what we're looking for, period. I don't want it to be this. I want it to be this.
and we had that.
And we had that. But we
But it's the
deviated
wrong-
from it.
We did, and that,
And that's what we need to determine is, do we go back to that with the revisions that you've asked for or discussed with respect to wording? Is that what you want, or do you want something else? Because right now we're shooting at a dartboard, and we don't even know what wall the dartboard is on. Forget about where the bullseye is.
Good analogy.
Would it be worth asking the voters at the town meeting if they had a preference for Sanborn Road or Park Street?
What's it gonna cost?
Right.
That's the first question that's gonna be asked. What's it gonna
of course, we
cost?
do have those
Yeah,
answers.
so we could take the information that we have from Lorero and go, hey, this is what we have. Of these 2 plans, what do you prefer? And maybe, you know, maybe it's a non-binding vote, maybe.
Oh, it would be, absolutely would be.
Your warrant's already written, right? Because it's not a warrant, no?
No, it's, yeah, the warrant is written, but
It's just a temperature check.
So how do you
it wouldn't
do
be
that?
binding, it doesn't have to be
Okay,
binding.
so it's just something you add on that.
Because that way we get some feedback on the actual potential costs of the 2 potential locations, and we'll have some clarity.
Yeah, 'cause usually
Oh, yeah, if you could.
2.5 hours of
discussion.
hydrants.
If
Yeah.
you have
Yeah, we'll-
discussion, yeah.
This is after we have the trial and maybe some consequences from that as well to discuss at district meeting.
Up for a long night.
And that's why it's 57 people.
Well, it'll start out with maybe 75, by the time you're done.
Right.
Might be 3.
So here's my question. I wanna get a definitive answer tonight. Will you 3 gentlemen provide us with a concise mission statement on what you're looking for from us? And it can be identical to the one we've already got. You just gotta put us back on point. We gotta get back on the rails. We gotta stop talking about all this extraneous baloney. Put us on the rails that you guys want us to be on, and that's where we're gonna go. That, I'm begging you for this. And I don't need an answer right now. If you want to discuss it and come up with something. I do need to know whether the 22nd will be a valid meeting or whether it's just gonna be more of the same.
Can I ask a question of,
Sure.
of you or whoever wants to give their answer? Are you in favor of doing the survey?
Personally, I am.
You're shaking your head.
It can't hurt.
I just, it hasn't been done
Yes, it's
before,
just-
as
but
far
it's
as we
money.
know. I don't think it's been done, so.
I think if it were a survey that we wrote,
Well, it's,
I would be iffy on it. But if it's a survey that's written
well, I
in
think that-
collaboration with the cooperative extension,
that's
I
what
think it will give us valid points, valid answers to some of our questions.
Well, that's what I mean, in collaboration with, but we would have to come up with the questions. I don't-
Right, of course,
But
yeah.
I think, you know, you're saying something, well, maybe if we decide, make a decision tonight on a survey and to go forward with it.
It'll be
then-
months before we meet again.
Well, no, then next meeting is we work on the question, we work on questions, maybe we can get,
Yeah, we could do that.
you know, I mean, I know we're not gonna get things, but again, if we have a good solid timeline by the time district meeting comes out, we can say, hey, you know, watch your mail for a survey, or, you know, and put it on social media and on the website.
You said we could put something together, we meaning the building committee.
And the-
Participate, help,
Yes,
contribute.
yes.
I would
absolutely.
strongly suggest that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you've asked us to do, that's, you're asking for a recommendation from us on the building, why wouldn't we participate in the questions
Coming
as
up with
well?
questions, I would strongly
Well,
recommend it.
Just to answer your thing about the 28th, you said?
22nd.
22nd?
22nd is a Monday.
Kathy sent out the calendar by email, I guess to us and the commissioners, and that building committee meeting was on the calendar that she sent out.
For the 22nd.
I think it had both meetings.
There's two in there this
Had
month.
the 8th on there too.
Right. What we voted on was instead of meeting the 8th, because Lisa was gonna be gone, that, and I would be gone, that we were going to move our meeting to tonight,
Okay, yes.
because I will not be here next week.
Nate has something to say.
So, I guess, do the commissioners have alignment on where they would like to see this go? Like, is there any plan or path that the commissioners agree on, or is there any information or anything specific that we can provide in order to get agreement and alignment? Because I mean, all we're doing is providing you information. Ultimately, you know, the fire commissioners are the ones who will be, you know, making the decision. So
No, they'll be making the presentation, otherwise that's 1, 2, 3 votes at district meeting. These gentlemen are not deciding where we're gonna put the station. What we're doing is we're providing them with guidance as far as what the committee feels is the best result. Then
but they will ultimately decide what gets
what gets
forth
put
between
on
the voters.
on the warrant, absolutely.
Yes, so ultimately, it's getting the fire commissioners in agreement on any plan versus the building committee coming together on a plan. Because we could decide something and, you know, if there isn't agreement among the commissioners, then, you know, it doesn't
Then
go
it
anywhere.
won't be put on the warrant, is all.
Well, we're talking about now warrant 2025, right?
Because we've missed
Yes.
2024.
Well, I don't, that was just what was,
That was just what I,
Well, this is 2024 now, it's not going on this
It's not
warrant
going on
article.
this article.
Next
So,
No,
year.
but I'm
I
just-
mean, you could still develop questions and you don't need to even make a decision on hiring UNH until you have the money to do it.
well, I think by the time we get around to that, we're gonna know how, I think we'll know the results of our trial at the end of the month, right? Because that's a jury trial, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's gonna be, painful, possibly, maybe not.
the next meeting will be at a jail or something.
Be a fundraiser.
GoFundMe page for bail.
They were green.
I'll bail you out.
right.
So shall we do that then? We'll keep the 22nd on, look into
We'll keep the 22nd.
questions and, I mean, we can come up with stuff whether we end up doing a survey or not.
Well, maybe, I guess, hopefully, maybe tonight we can answer the question, and then if we've decided to go forward with it, we can make it a joint meeting and work on it.
You're gonna make that decision, I don't know where your money's coming from?
I don't know that, yeah, I haven't,
Well, it's part of the discussion.
it's part of the discussion, I don't know where the money's gonna come from right now. Because in my head, I just realized that we flipped the calendar, so we can't even look at the 2023 budget, so. A little slow sometimes, you know.
Well, there's a lot to think about, that's really all it is.
But we want to get something that's gonna pass. That's the, and I, you know, in doing all my stuff this, you know, over the last couple of weeks, there was a town that, you know, they came up with a plan. The committee went to go cut $500,000. The engineers came back and said, "Hey, guess what? The cost of the project just went up $1.5 million because they waited."
Right, the longer you wait, the more it costs.
Yeah.
That's
So
not
they
gonna-
cut
that's not-
500, but
that's-
they went up 1.5, you know, so. You know.
Starting again.
And that was a much bigger station, but it still just gave the idea of, okay,
Does
let's
it-
get them.
Does it make sense that if you decide to do the survey, the direction for this committee will come from the results of that survey? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, I would say that makes sense.
I think that's a fair
That being the
statement.
case, if you decide to do the survey, which I hope you don't, if you do, we've just catapulted this ball down the road. We're not kicking the can, we've catapulted the thing down the road, how far? And timing is everything. And a lot affects, regardless of what anyone's opinion is or what the survey may show. If the number is 10 million, today, the average bond rate is 3.5. That's $6 million in interest. At 1%, like it was 2 years ago, is a third of that. So timing, how everything ebbs and flows, you know, I don't really believe in this, but people say the stars align. That's what you need to take place.
I don't think anyone disputes that. Obviously, I think in addition to bond rates and cost of construction, what the future holds for cost of construction.
But we have to be ready when the stars align, because the cost of construction is going down.
And, yeah, and don't
Cost
blink because you'll miss
increases.
the alignment.
But the cost increases hasn't seemed to have been
And you've
the
got-
effective measure of getting anybody to vote for anything in the past. It's been going up forever, and
You've got to be ready to move when the time is right.
but I guess how quickly you develop it and how quickly they get it on. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take.
We don't have property.
All right, well,
Property within
I think
the
that we're good with their input.
Oh, that's-
If we want to talk about this later or now or whatever. I think we have some issues, questions.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this, because this was also our meeting, I should,
No, the meeting was never called to order.
We attended this meeting instead, right? We
As a
attended
committee?
Yeah, we were attendees of their meeting.
Tough one.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you in the spring.
That was it. Yeah, I got it.
Stay warm.
Enjoy Hawaii.
I can look back.
No, I just put Kathy's stuff, I gotta make sure it's right, Kathy.
I'm interested how like looking at all these, and I didn't just look in the air, I looked outside the window. And there's a lot of stuff.
Sure is.
Let's get off the subject for a minute. Westcott Law, 12/22/23.
I sent the emails that I received from our attorney. I didn't bring copies of those with me. And basically, they were a bunch of motions and counter motions between the two attorneys about what letting information in or not letting information in. It didn't make any sense to me, but the attorneys basically are fighting each other right at this point. And so I just passed it along for you guys to read, so you could, maybe you guys could make something out of it.
I think the takeaway I took from it was that at some point it was implied that we would have a expert witness.
Yes.
And so the water district was expecting disclosure of who that was. And when we couldn't come up with the expert witness, we never let them know that we didn't have an expert witness. So there was finally a motion that we hadn't followed the timeline that was agreed to earlier on
I
about
started
dates for
reading,
when
I
these
did.
things were going to happen. So I think all the correspondence should clarify that. That was my take on it.
Yeah, that's basically it, but
I mean,
it doesn't mean anything in the end, in my mind.
I know they have one, so they said that they do.
Yes.
Is it something we should look into?
Well, I think
Well,
we did, and there
we
wasn't
tried
enough time.
we were given a time frame from
To
which
do it.
to do it, and
We didn't do it.
our attorneys attempted to engage expert witness for us, but the time frame that the judge put on the results that needed to be submitted, none of the expert witnesses says, no, it's going to take longer than that to provide you with accurate data, so I'm not going to do it. So we couldn't engage an expert witness given the timeline that the judge gave us. Or we were unable to. None of the expert witnesses were willing to work under the time limits given that the judge gave us.
I guess.
I think there was more to that. In addition to the timeline, there were some that weren't interested in the project for whatever reasons.
Sure.
So I guess,
We still don't have a date.
We still don't have a specific date for the court trial yet.
okay.
We just have that range.
I guess,
That was between the 22nd and February 2nd.
Yes. The last 2 weeks of January, basically.
okay. Okay, UNH Survey Center.
So that's the document you have attached into your thing, which I sent out to you earlier. So.
Anybody got anything to say?
About the survey. Well, if you want to have that discussion now, you can have it now, and you want to save it for later, that's fine too.
I guess we'll hold off for a while on that then.
Not knowing how to pay for it is.
Let's move on to Chief's report.
Okay. Just developed this today, and so I did not have time to distribute it to you earlier than today.
Dates are on at the top.
Chief. Yep, it is. Wrong year. It's not the, it won't be the first time that I write the wrong year down
You did the
on
same
a
thing last
document.
year.
The 2023 audit is scheduled for the week of February 5th. The
Wait,
20
We haven't even gotten the final audit.
Yes, all the material is into them now. They received all the final documentation that they needed, which was holding it up. And so I expect that to come out shortly. The 2023 budget, we are 100% through the calendar or fiscal year, if you will, and that budget was expended at 96.5%. Although the 2023 books are not closed, and they usually don't close until the end of the month because we're still getting bills in from the previous year.
So if that can take that number, I can take up 96.5.
Yeah, that will more than likely tick up, yes. It usually does every year. The apparatus and equipment fund balance through December is $992,787.05. Total ambulance revenue through December, $572,677.75. And we transported 1,056 patients. Comparing that to 2022 budget, is the revenue was $579,012, and we had 1,140 transports last year in 2022. The 572 number is not the final number. We won't know what that number is until the audit is completed, at least the draft audit anyways. Do we have any questions on that information? Okay, moving forward. We did not use a fire hydrant in the month of December. Fire prevention report for the month of December, there were 22 fire prevention inspections. A copy of those inspections are within your package. For the year of 2023, we did 594 inspections.
How does that compare to last year?
I'm gonna look that one up. So I couldn't tell you. I can get it to you tomorrow though. Let me write that down.
About 50 of them.
It's,
You also find out how many times in 2023 we used that hydrant. I don't think
Like
it
the
was very
total for the whole year?
twice,
yeah, just, you know,
2 times I think.
I'm getting incidences confused in my head, so I don't remember what year they were.
Yeah.
I don't think it was very often.
Twice sounds, I don't want, I wouldn't be, yeah.
I can only think of twice, and one was on a private hydrant.
Park Street, Home Depot.
We tied into the fire hydrant outside the high school last. We didn't use any water, but we tied into it. Franklin actually tied into it last February or something like that. That's it.
We use one on Park Street for that outside fire. Use about 1,000 gallons out of it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
3 times.
3 times maybe.
But is that private one, does the water district have any say over that one, or is it strictly?
We let them know that we use it, that we tied into it.
Well, is that private one hooked to the
That's what it is.
water district?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you look at the billing from the water district, you see public and private hydrants.
Yeah.
There's a number of each. So, yeah, I would think it
I
counts.
think there's like 5 or 6 private.
Or else
Private?
way
Oh,
more
no,
than that.
it's
like
almost,
half and half.
it's half and half.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's total, like
Yeah.
98 or 99.
It was a little over 100, I think.
Depends who you
It's okay to move on?
Yep.
All right. The run report for December of '23, the run, also included in the handout, for the month of December, we had 177 incidents. 104 of those incidents were EMS in nature, equating to 59% of our total incident volume for the month. The engine responded with the ambulance 40 times. Total of all incidents for 2023 is 2,125. Total EMS incidents of those were 1,468, equating to 69% of all incidents were EMS in nature. Move on?
Yep.
Okay. Overlapping simultaneous incidents for 2023, for the month of December, we had 60 overlapping or simultaneous incidents, accounting for 39% of all incidents for December. Total overlapping incidents for 2023 was 958, accounting for 45% of all incidents. Last month, we received 0 mutual aid ambulance responses. We responded 5 times with our ambulance. We transported twice out of those 5 times. We received 2 mutual aid engine responses, and we responded with our engine 8 times on mutual aid. Moving on, for apparatus, the damage on A2 from the accident at Irwin's, or damage from the guy driving the plow, has been repaired. The new website is live. I hope you all had a chance to visit it. It's looking good.
Nice.
Thank you, Kevin. Safer grant, we're up to date on reimbursements, although I will be submitting a new reimbursement shortly. The Homeland Security grant, which you're aware of, for $53,000. The equipment has been received and installed and is operational. I'm currently applying for a 2024 Homeland Security grant for additional radio infrastructure improvements.
What would this be, the improvements on what?
On the radio system, adding additional receivers on the eastern side of Tilton, down by the Winnisquam Bridge area or the new hotel area. Center Street, nothing to report on Center Street. Fire department radio system, nothing new there. The cell tower is still operational. We're receiving the monthly checks. I think I'd have to look up when the anniversary date is, because on the anniversary date of when the tower went live, that amount that we get from the tower will go up 2.5%. Moving forward, the safer effect, none of those things have changed. Well, I did adjust what it cost for a firefighter, in a single firefighter, a safer firefighter in 2023, cost 45 cents per thousand on the tax rate in Northfield, and 4.5 cents per thousand in Northfield, and 6.75 cents per thousand in Tilton. That's for a single firefighter. Moving on, personnel, we have 2 call applications that are in process. We're waiting for their criminal background checks to come back.
Nice.
They're mostly EMS people, so since we kind of lost all our EMS people, that would be helpful, hopefully.
Are they local, hopefully?
Yes.
They live in
Yes.
Northfield.
Yep. Nice,
As you know, we're scheduled for a jury trial sometime between January 22nd and February 2nd with the Water District. And things I'm currently working on, I'm still, the 2024 budget, the Budget Committee has finalized its recommendations. The 2019 SAFER grant is coming to a close. It'll be February 8th is the last day of that, so I'm preparing all the documents to do my final reporting to FEMA. And as I told you before, I'm working on applying for the 2024 Homeland Security Grant. And that completes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I guess it'll come up in the next section, but we'll talk about the budget a little bit.
This year's budget.
You all set? You all set, Eric?
Yep.
Okay, old business, budget committee, public hearing.
Kathy has given me the note, the budget committee would like to have the public hearing on February 6th, which is the same night as your regularly scheduled commissioners meeting. So she needs direction from you, I guess. You guys need to set a date. Sounds like
And if you wanna have, if you wanna move your regular scheduled meeting to another night and have the warrant hearing at the same time as the budget hearing, or have everything all in one night, this is up to you guys.
What time is that public hearing?
It's usually,
Oh.
it's 6 o'clock, and then it's scheduled, the budget public hearing scheduled for 6 o'clock. And usually, the warrant articles are scheduled to follow immediately after that. It might be on the clock for 7 o'clock.
I think we hold them pretty much together, one right after the other. We've always done it that way, so.
If that's fine, and if that's the case, would you prefer to keep your regular scheduled meeting to follow after that? Or do you wanna have the regular monthly meeting on a different night?
I'm good either way.
Well, in theory, the hearings could go till 8 or longer, right?
Yes, they could. Depends upon how many people show up for it. Sometimes Kevin shows up,
What happens when
sometimes nobody
the
shows up.
first public meeting, like nobody shows up and you're done in half an hour, you have to wait that
No, we.
till 7 o'clock?
It's, it immediately follows,
You worded immediately following.
yeah.
So you don't set a time.
You
It
set
says
one time,
immediately following. Yeah.
Thank you for that
and everything
clarification.
rolls.
You know, I'm willing to keep it all together, have a meeting after.
Okay.
And what we could do is if it does run over, we can move it. I mean, we can pick a date now, and if we can get it in there, get it done and over with.
Right, okay, I'm fine with that.
But if not, you want to go to the following Tuesday, the 13th, is it the 13th?
the following Tuesday will be the 13th. Yes.
And if we can't do our regular meeting in time, we do the 13th for our regular meeting?
That works.
That's fine. Because we love holding meetings.
Just look at the light for that.
You all set with that?
You
I think that's what I'm writing
Yeah,
down.
I'm all set.
get, okay.
Okay, review the minutes of,
Wait. Is there anything we need to do with the budget?
No, because the budget committee presents it, and then we do the warrant
Okay.
articles.
Right, and some of the numbers just weren't updated. because
Usually we
didn't hear.
update we go through, that's for the district meeting where we sign, who's gonna read.
Okay. All right, fine, thank you.
okay, review the minutes of 12/5/2003, public.
I have those. I told you I'm not as good as Kathy.
Our expectations weren't high,
No.
so you're good.
As soon as we walked in, next. keep forgetting that.
I know.
We can bring one in.
Budget cuts.
No outlet over anymore.
That was a battery operated one.
I have my phone.
They're all clocks now.
I only had one issue. Second page, Park Street Fire Department radio system, about 2/3 of the way down the page. Sorry, here you go. Commissioner Sattler asked if any additional tenants are going on the cell tower. Chief Sitar commented that there are not, but once the anniversary date of when they started working on it comes around, we'll get a 2% raise in rent.
2.5%.
All right, so it's 2.5%, but I think the comment was that at this time, there isn't any additional. And we don't want to make it sound like we weren't taking anymore.
Oh, yeah, no. I'd agree with that.
That's the only thing I found.
Could you note that on one of the,
Yeah.
so I could give it to Kathy and Courtney tomorrow?
Double sided.
Thank you.
Thank you. I make a motion, we approve the minutes of the
With the exception of
12, December 5, 23 Commissioners meeting with the changes as discussed.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other business?
I think excuse me. Do we need to go back to
Oh, yeah, the survey.
building committee?
Okay, let's go back to UNH surveys.
So, I think the committee has made it very clear that they need direction from the commissioners. I think we've done the due diligence to go out and get some information about a survey. The question that I have before I think we can make any decision is, if we were to go with this survey, how would we pay for it? And, well, I'll leave it at that for now.
That's a big question. I don't have a copy of the final budget with me.
Neither do I. I was, I had another meeting.
Mine's dated 12/5.
When's the last time we met?
It was after that. You met right before Christmas.
Yeah, the 18th. Did someone just requested a copy of that?
Catherine did requested a copy of the final version of it.
No.
I don't know
Is that available? Can we get that sent out to us?
Yes.
Yeah, she didn't send it out, otherwise I would.
Well, as you can imagine, today was a very busy day. So that didn't go out today, but it's, when I get back to the station, I can send it out to you. It is available. I don't know if I can do it from my phone.
Well, I hate putting anything off, but I don't think I have enough thought on this to,
I need to know where
Wanna
the
make a
money's gonna
motion?
come from,
well, there's that. And then
if it's approved.
little things like water are gonna come up, and where are we at on the bottom line of the budget already, and I know it's a lot of things to consider before spending another 12 grand.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, even if we decide not to do anything with that at this time, I still think I would like to suggest that the building committee meet on the 22nd or whatever that date is, and talk about and work towards putting together, if we were gonna do this survey, what would those questions be? So we can start thinking about how we prioritize those questions.
So you're saying on the, whatever date, the 22nd, when they meet again, or the 21st, whatever day they meet, anyhow, they should come up with some questions.
Well, I think it's gonna be more than a one-meeting process.
Well, so do I, and maybe present them. I'm curious what some of them come up with.
Well, I think that's why we have to start actually having this conversation, because, you know, as was so eloquently stated, we all have our own biases towards what we want.
That's
you know?
correct.
So I could say, you know, if we're gonna spend $7 million on one station down at Park Street, would that pass? Or would it be easier to pass $10 million with two stations? I know. It's a lot more money, but does it?
Keep it at like 9.99999.
Well, the marketing folks will. So I think the questions will help the committee to see through the discussion, how do we look for the priorities? Because we always think it's price, or I think it a lot of time comes down to price. So
I don't think it is.
okay, well, see, so that's why we need to, what are the things we're trying to find out? What is the top end of the price spectrum that people are willing to spend? All right.
I mean, I think it's a price somewhat, but I think you ask yourself, do you want to go another 2 or 3 years and pay twice as much? Or do you want to pay it once and get it done and over with? And it's location. The location is the big thing.
So I think, you know, you should submit those as what you're hoping to get results.
And I don't look at it like Tilton Northfield. I mean, Tilton should be in Tilton or Northfield. I don't look at it like that. I look at it, where is the best place to put it, where we can get the most use out of it,
Right.
and where the most calls are.
So it'd be good to have that started to be put down on paper.
Yep. All I can say is, it's a good thing you don't live in North Carolina, because you'd sit there for half an hour before you saw an ambulance. That's how far away they are.
Well, we don't know what rural is here. You know, we think we do, but we don't.
5 minutes is
You are absolutely
a
right.
lifesaver compared to a half an hour.
I asked my cousin that out in northern Michigan. I said, when you dial 911 and a fire truck pulls into your yard, what's the logo on the door? And he thought about it for a long time. And they're all volunteers, so he was like, I guess it would depend who got to the station first. But they're all coming from a long ways away. And right when he had a call, a fire truck showed up with one firefighter. Yes, we're very fortunate.
Portions of Alaska don't even send a truck.
You can't dial 911.
Yeah, exactly.
Portion of New Hampshire, it's a long time.
But anyway. That would be my suggestion. I don't know, what Eric thinks.
I agree with this. Start the ball rolling. But keep in the back of my mind, we gotta figure out how we're gonna pay for it.
And right now, we don't have a mechanism for that at all.
Nope, but at least we start the ball in anticipation, so that if we can figure it out.
It's not gonna hurt to come up with ideas anyhow, and if you don't have the money, you don't have the money, simple as that.
Then we do it in-house.
So do we need to make a motion that that's what we're gonna suggest to the committee, or do we just,
I think I would make a motion.
I'm on the committee, somebody else should make the
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we recommend to the building station committee to start formulating questions for a survey. Is that enough?
Yeah, something short.
Commissioners
I'll second
and
it.
the committee. Correct?
Oh yeah, commissioners and
Commissioners and committee.
all right, I'll second that. Kevin's already starting to write things down over there.
What's that?
See, Kevin's already making up his questions.
Okay, it's been moved second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any public comment? Got anything, Kevin?
What's your budget number?
I didn't bring it with us.
All right, let me ask you a different question. Is it true that the budget committee forwarded a number greater than both the chief and the commissioners?
Yes.
Yes.
I think you ought to do two things. One of two things. I know you did one of them before, and it didn't pass. I think you ought to put in a warrant article to abolish the budget committee, or put in an article to make the budget committee elected rather than appointed.
You can't with a special village district. The charter of special village district, I don't believe that you can have the budget committee elected. It has to be appointed. It's like the special village district can't have 5 commissioners. It has to be 3 commissioners. And all the commissioners are at large. They can't come from.
We that.
So I kind of looked at all that a few years ago. I might be wrong, but I don't think they can be elected either. They have to be appointed. I'll look it up.
If that turns out to be the one, you ought to ride your state representatives like an old horse and make the law change. So anyway, it's 3.3 or 4 million, right?
I believe so.
Something.
It was 3 point.
I don't believe for a second that any one of you three think there isn't $11,000 worth of fat in that budget. I don't support I don't support the survey. But I mostly asked you how you would pay for it. Like, I ask a lot of questions for no other reason than a response. make people's heads spin, make them think, get a response. You can fund that budget more than once, you can fund that survey more than once out of that budget.
I think, in fact, I think you're right, because usually at the end of the fiscal year, we have several $1,000s that we did not expend. So, but we haven't spent a penny of it yet, so I can imagine that we would be able to, as the year goes along,
The
figure
other
it out.
thing I would caution you about, and I think you all know this, but, I mean, I've sat at those tables, there's so much to think about, just so much. And then you get someone like Mel here going, hey, what are you doing? You don't have a budget yet, you have no money. You have no money until March 12th or whatever it is. You're broke, you got no money, you spent all your money last year. So you really shouldn't be spending any money on anything you don't absolutely have to have until then, because as sure as we're all sitting in this room right now and breathing the same air, there's gonna be an amendment to that budget. An attempt, maybe 2 or 3. Just don't spend money you don't have. I mean, when you got it and you ended up being able to swipe out 11 grand for some paper, the 11 grand from the survey center is a lot better deal than the $9,000 we paid Lorero. See, I said the name. Lorero for 3 pages of paper that contained all free information.
Point taken. All right, what's next?
Go on.
Anything else? Okay, number 10, non-public session per RSA 91-A, :3, Roman numeral 2L.
You gotta read it.
Aye.
No, oh, no, we could make you read it, but you should read it.
Let Eric read it.
Oh, you make me read it?
Somebody else can.
Oh, one's for me, one's, I'm sorry. No,
All right,
yeah, I'm supposed to write on this one.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Which one? Did you check?
RSA 91A, :3, Roman numeral 2L. There's no check.
No,
Consideration.
it's now.
Yeah, consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present. Roll call vote.
Apology, yes.
Tim Sattler, yes.
Eric Pyrie, yes. We are in non-public session at 7:43.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hold on.
Camera good? Okay. All right,
I'll make a motion to
wait,
seal.
hold on, we're reconvening into public session at 7:47 PM. A motion to seal these minutes.
I'll make a motion we seal the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Made by Paul, seconded by Tim.
Just say
Because,
whatever.
because if it's determined to divulge this information likely would,
Should be about reputation.
render a proposal until the matter is resolved.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what you want to say.
All right, roll call to seal these minutes. Paul Ozier?
Yes.
Eric Pyrie, yes.
Tim Sattler, yes.
Tim Sadler, yes. Motion passed. These minutes were recorded by Eric. There you go. I'll bet you there's another one.
Yep.
I'll make a motion we go on public session per RSA 91-A,
Two,
LL, or is that 2?
two.
2C, disposition reports.
I'll second it. Matters which are discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant. Roll call vote, Paul Ozier,
Yes.
Eric Pyrie, yes.
Tim Sadler, yes.
Yes, stop the recorder. Non-public session entered at 7:49. 7:55 PM. We are back in public session. Do we seal these minutes? Do we?
I think the minutes are just that you reviewed this position.
Yeah, but it says motion made to seal the minutes. Do we seal these?
I don't know.
It wasn't a review of minutes, right?
There was no minutes. It's action.
I don't think we ever had.
Okay, so no, okay. Roll call vote, nothing. All right, these are minutes recorded by me. I'll give those back to you. My job is done there.
Paul, I just wanted to say in other business, are we back to other business? Are we back recording?
We are back
There is one
recording,
more.
yep.
I again want to thank the deputy chiefs for coming. It's always good to have your insight.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Sorry I couldn't hold up the Kathy statements.
Yeah, well, we did, our expectations weren't that high.
There were no expectations.
Yeah.
It's really how Courtney's gonna do the minutes, really.
Yeah, next time bring the laptop.
At least
Please flip it up.
I'll have the game on.
I think Courtney's doing a better job with the minutes of late.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're good.
yeah.
The detail.
Yeah.
A little
tutoring.
Nice.
How's she doing? Pretty good?
She's doing very good.
I was there the other day and she was trying to burn out a shredder.
Yes, she's
Oh, they don't-
she's very busy all the time, and
I met her.
she's fits in well with the organization. So yeah, very happy.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn at
7:56.
7:56.
Okay. I was going to say, no, that's okay. All those in favor?
Oh, somebody second?
I seconded it, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye. It's non-debatable.